Hello.
Hi.
I'm still getting used to getting to us faster, but yes, thank you so much. Rafe
Yeah.
Totengco, and this is my Filipino Hustle Friday show. Thank you so much for joining me as my guest for this episode today on my humble show. This is my 14th episode, and it's
Fantastic.
really an honor to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Rafi is New York based, a fashion designer, and has been, his products have been featured with celebrities and on the red carpet. I'm sure you're going to talk about this. We're going to dive in more. And featured in Fashion Week as well. And so it's really cool that one of my team members stumbled on your account. It's most likely on Instagram. And you have over 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
You got to tell me about how you grew that and then how you ended up in New York, because you were born in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and dive into your story.
I was born in the island of Negros, Occidental, in the city of Bacolod. I grew up there all my life up until high school. And I had always been interested in the arts. I was always drawing when I was a little kid. And somehow, by some stroke of accident, I ended up really kind of falling in love with fashion at a very early age, buying fashion magazines and reading up on it and redesigning my uniforms and my clothing and, all of that stuff. And, I realized as well very early on that in the Philippines, there was really no, at that time, fashion school. There was none. So I went to Manila after high school graduation. And within a year of studying advertising in college, my professors kind of said to me, like, what are you doing? You don't belong in advertising. Every project you have is like a girl in a dress or something. And they were like, no, not everything goes back to fashion. And I was like, you're wrong. Everything goes back to fashion.
Yes.
So yeah, I started a little clothing business. I started making clothes for myself initially, and then for my friends, and it sort of like grew as a result of that. So I had one seamstress in the beginning, and by year two, I was 18 at the time. I had like about 30 workers working for me. It was
Wow.
kind of amazing. It was like crazy. We were doing shows and pictorials, and we were kids. We were just having fun. And I eventually got really restless and wanted to learn more about the industry, and not just the industry but also just the technique and the craft of fashion, because at that time I would just sketch, give it to a seamstress, and they would do it, and sometimes they wouldn't do it right and didn't quite know how to fix it. So I really wanted to know and look at something and look at the construction and do all of that. So I went to New York to study at FIT, and that was it. I fell in love with New York, and I haven't looked back since. And it was just one of those like eureka moment where I was like, okay, like I think I belong here. There was something about
Wow.
New York that was just, so enticing and intoxicating.
Was it intimidating at all at the thought of leaving the Philippines?
Yes, yes, of course. All of that. But I'm kind of, in one hand, I also believe in, like, if you don't, should have, would have, could have, I don't want to be that person. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, I can always come back. Yeah, there's always that, right? I know what I'm going to go back to, but I don't know what I'm going towards. And that you know, um, sort of ambiguity and sort of uncertainty is also what fuels you to push yourself, right? So I thought that at that time it was a very exciting proposition.
And the other thing too is not many survive in New York. Like it's one of the hardest cities to live in as far as surviving the financial side of things and just all the pressure. And yeah, like what was that adjustment like coming from friendly Philippines, everyone's warm and welcome, and New York's just on the rough side.
Well, I think in New York it's like, what I always kind of loved about the city is that or just city, but just the culture. It's like nobody really kind of cares where you're from. They just want to know if you're good. If you're good at what you do, if you're crazy enough to be here, and if you're determined and you're ambitious, like all of that, I think garners respect from your peers. Uh, it's one of those things. It's like there's like this competition that people thrive on, and I kind of enjoyed that in the beginning. And I still do, because it's what propels you to keep going, right? Like you're only as good as your last collection. So
Mm.
it's like, okay, you did the collection, you're done. You don't even time to enjoy it, because you're like, okay, next, you're gonna keep going. Like, okay, so like you've finished the collection, now you're gonna sell it, now you're gonna market it, you gotta do this, you gotta do your photo. I mean, it's like never ending, and I think that also keeps you just motivated to not like stop.
So you launched your brand, Rafe New York, 1997. When, like,
Yeah.
how long was that? Like after FIT?
I was actually still at FIT,
Okay.
and then I was on the verge of sort of finishing school, and I just sort of started getting busier with work. And it was one of those things where it's like, do I finish school? Do I just keep doing this? And it was one of those like, turning points where I was like, I'm super busy with what I'm doing. And, do I really need that diploma to like say that I'm, like good? Like, I don't know. I just kind of walked away from it, and I just kept going. Yeah. So I haven't looked back. It was one of those turning points in my career where I was like, okay, what's more important, to get the collection done, to get it this, or to go back to school and finish like, some of these subjects that were required but aren't relevant to what I do already in my, in my work. So yeah, I sort of made that decision to just keep going with the work.
I think one of the quality characteristics of getting to success is not giving up. And I feel like you really did that. And the resilience that you've had, because fashion is also a very competitive environment within the New York, atmosphere. And so how did you do it? Like, how did you mentally do it?
I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. You don't know how else to do it, but you just keep going, because there's no other way. I mean, like, yes, it's like breathing, right? You just keep breathing, because if you stop, then you stop. So you just keep going, and
Mm.
hopefully you align yourselves with the right partners, with the right people, and people who, I mean, there is a collective community of friends and colleagues, and other people who want you to do well. It's
Mm.
competitive, but at the same time, there is this sort of collective mass of people and energy that you thrive off each other, and you feed off each other, and it's good. There's collaborations with people, and whether they're photographers or stylists, and manufacturers and suppliers. It's like this whole sort of web, that you're all working towards the same thing. Everybody understands what the needs are and what you bring to the table. So I don't know. I enjoy that interaction.
So did you feel, I mean, I obviously with Fashion Institute of Technology, that's a pretty renowned school. Did you start networking there? Did you kind of network on your own?
Both. I mean, it's really like, I would say what's really nice about being in FIT was that I met a lot of people who I'm still friends with to this day, who are, for you to go to any school at this point, after, like, there's just this sort of passion, right? People are passionate about the industry, or about the craft, or about their chosen subjects, whether it's life drawing or draping or pattern making. Like, everyone's really into it. So that part of the education that I received at FIT was already, for me, like such an eye opener, and I learned so much. But you also learn from other people, like your classmates. Some who are really good, and some who are not, who are kind of okay. But like, you just like, it's just this again, this collective, community of passionate, crazy people. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of masochistic to be in the industry,
Yeah,
but
that's what I hear.
you don't know anything else. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really refreshing to know that people are very supportive of one another.
yeah.
Um,
I've met my best friends in the industry. So
yeah,
yeah, when they say that it's catty, yes, that I mean, any industry, you're always going to bump into mean girls, no matter where, right? There's
yeah,
always going to be those cast of characters, but at the same time, you're also going to meet the most real, the most uh, honest, uh,
you get
grounded
what you get.
individuals. Yeah, you have to get.
Yeah.
And
So
and I think also at some point in your life, you kind of you already know who these people are, right? You meet
yeah.
them, you feel it, right?
So have you been able to, just being there, of course, and the most famous city really in the world to me, I think, is, did you meet famous people? Like among the fashion icons,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I have, and it's funny because like sometimes you get a little starstruck, and then you're like, oh, okay, next. Yeah, okay, that was really nice.
They're like a normal person, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Well, also like I'm starstruck. I'm starstruck for a little bit, and then it's like next, we just
Yeah.
move on. It's like I don't dwell on that stuff. Like I've met a lot of really famous people, and I'm like, okay, that was really nice. That was sweet. That was great. Next.
It's funny because it probably happens often there, huh? Just walking down the street, you might
Maybe,
have
but
bumped
maybe because I'm
into.
also like on one hand, I'm like kind of like, oh my god, that was blah blah blah, and then I'm like, all right, that was great. Next, it's like, yeah, just move on. There's plenty where it came from.
I mean, speaking of, famous people and within the fashion industry, when you first came, there weren't really Filipinos. I mean, there's Filipinos, but not within the fashion industry, right?
No, there was just Josie Notori actually at the time
Yeah.
I started. So it was quite nice that it was just like, when I first met her, actually, she was super warm and accommodating and just really maternal. She'd call me Iho, you know.
Aw.
She's like, oh, Iho, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. She was really sweet. I'd bump into her like in a train in Florence. She's like, oh my God, stop, sit beside me. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And, she was really sweet. Yeah.
So was she like a mentor or?
Not really, but
Yeah.
she recognized we were both, doing our thing, and
Yeah.
she was always quite, welcoming to me.
So you came here on your own. Did you have any family around the
No, my
area?
sister was already living in the city, so
Oh, great.
that was helpful. I mean,
Yeah,
otherwise, I think it would have been really, really hard to kind of, get your bearings, from scratch.
I
So I
know,
think,
seriously.
her being here already sort of really helped me establish my roots.
It's funny because I know I meant, like, earlier we were talking about Monique Lumiere, and I was like, so she's definitely Filipino? And you're like, yeah, Julia, you should.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, really, really.
I bet you more than 50% of us have no clue that she is. Like,
Really? Okay. Well, okay, I'm here to tell you she is.
oh, maybe I just forgot. But I am a huge fan of her dresses. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
No, I mean, if you Google her,
It's probably there in Wikipedia
yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. She doesn't hide it. There's no shame there. There's pride.
Well, I haven't had to buy a wedding dress since I discovered her after I got married. So like maybe that. But yeah, no. Okay. So obviously we talked about how more Filipinos are starting to be more in the public limelight just because thanks to social media, there's more representation, things like that. So when you were growing your presence online, how did you do it? On your own, or do you have a team that helps you with that?
No, initially it was just me. I had my partner, and it was just the two of us doing everything. And also at that time, there was no social media, right? So there was none of that. It was traditional editorial where you called in and actually showed up at magazines with your collection to show the editor. I mean, this is really old school where you like literally hauled your things, your samples over to the magazines, Condé Nast at that time, and
Wow.
tried to meet the accessories editors. It was super old school. And also this was before high security. So I literally could just go to the front desk and be like, hi, I'm here to see blah, blah, blah. And they're like,
really?
like, no. Like, oh, let me call her. Let me see if she's available. Yeah, it was super, I don't know. Like,
you had to hustle. Like you had to really hustle.
You had to just show up. You had to show up and actually do it. Yeah. There was no email. There was none of that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was kind of amazing, actually. At that time, everybody was much more approachable, I think. I mean,
Really?
I think, well, yeah, because at that time there was like, I mean, they won't let you into Condé Nast now without like an ID, without an invitation. At that
Yeah.
time, you could just literally go up to what floor the magazine was on and be like, speak to the receptionist and be like, oh, I'm here to meet blah blah blah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
those were
there was no gatekeepers,
not
pretty
that
much.
not that I encountered. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of amazing. I mean, W Magazine, Mademoiselle, Vogue. I met all the assistant editors, like all the market editors. They were all really kind of open. Not like
Wow.
now where there's like probably like 5 layers of security before you can even get to them, or if they even answer you, you know, your DM or whatever. Like back then, there was none of that. So there was
Right.
a little bit more, I don't know, an openness to meeting people in person. Well, now it's like not interested.
So have you, I mean, with your connections, have you been able to still keep those connections, or do you have to
A lot
find
of
new
them have
ways?
moved on. A lot of them are no longer in those positions.
Right.
And also, like, I hate to say it, but magazines are not as important as they used to be.
Right.
I don't necessarily run after the magazine editors anymore because I'm just like, I don't know, like so many people find, their, a new product, maybe through Instagram. It's really all social media now.
Right.
I mean, if you
So
buy a
are you selling
magazine, it's like
directly?
a pamphlet.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's like your online brochure, pretty much your own, like
Yeah.
those different
Right.
platforms.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody else has their different go-to for the authority in fashion. They don't, I mean, the magazines don't carry that much weight as they used to.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a different world.
So did you, and then eventually when you discovered social media, how did you start managing that too? You
I mean,
started,
God, I've been doing, how long have I been doing it? I've probably been doing it since when did Instagram start? 2000.
I think it was around 10, 11 years ago. I'm like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I can Google it actually.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, that's whenever it started, that's when I started. I mean, at that time,
That's why you started early.
oh, I was one of the
That's
first adapters. Yeah. But also, if I look at my very, very first Instagrams, if I can find it. They're awful. They were awful, awful pictures. Didn't know what I was doing. Probably didn't even do any hashtags. Just like did not figure that stuff out. It was bad. I mean, but then again, in the beginning, Instagram was nothing but just sharing photos. There were no hashtags,
right.
or any of that. I mean, it all sort of eventually sort of developed. So yeah, so it was a learning curve. I mean, before Instagram, it was Facebook, right? And I only joined Facebook to get in touch with my nephews and niece,
Right.
my family, the younger generation of my family, because they were like, "Oh, email? No, just send me a Facebook." And I was like,
Yeah.
"What? I have to talk to you through like another channel." They're like, "Yeah, everyone's on Facebook." I was like, "Okay." And now none of them are on it, but I'm still on it. So who knows? It's one of those things.
Yeah. And then there's TikTok. Like my kids are in TikTok and
Yeah,
Instagram.
no, I'm on it, but I haven't posted anything because I can't do the silly dance. Like that's
No.
just like age inappropriate.
Yeah. No, I
I'm
mean,
not funny. I don't want to try to be funny. My brand's not
no,
funny. So yeah,
it's time consuming, it's mentally draining, and
yeah,
your market is really on Instagram and
right,
above like
right,
Facebook
yeah,
and everything. So,
yeah.
um, wow. And so like so people are actually able to order online on your website?
Yes, yeah,
Okay. That's great.
which is
And
great.
then what other ways have you found that worked really well for marketing? I mean, you obviously have a reputation within the fashion industry because you were also in Fashion Week. Like, how are you just constantly just doing events? What have
Um,
you been doing that worked?
there's an ebb and flow. I mean, Fashion Week in LA sort of happened really. Initially, I wasn't even into the idea because I was like, I don't know who goes to LA. I don't know, like LA Fashion Week. Like, I don't know what that is, because it's not really like considered a serious fashion week. You know what I mean? It's like there's New York, Milan, Paris, London,
Yeah.
done. Really,
Yeah.
like it's like that you're done. Beyond that, when you have other fashion weeks like Copenhagen and Tokyo, they're all like on the side, but they're not. But
Mhm.
they're quite separate. So the idea of like, oh my God, these editors going to LA, they're not going to go to LA. That's not going to happen. It's true. I mean, like
Yeah.
the reality, right? Unless they have their own editors there, which is fine. But then,
Mhm.
when they asked me to be part of it, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They kind of did everything for me. All I had to do was show up with my bags. I was like,
Oh, nice.
no, why not? Just say
Oh,
yes, figure it out later. So that was great. I mean, I came in and I said, okay, I don't want traditional models. I want dancers. I want a 3-minute segment. It'll be quick and short. It'll be done. I don't want them to walk with the bags. I want them to dance with the bags. I want them to be voguing. I want them to have a great time. And I want to be in and out and done. And then I want you to kind of, as an, if you're an onlooker, if you're like one of the people watching the show, I want it to be done before you figured out what happened. You're like, wait, what happened? What do you mean it's done? Like, he's done?
New York speed.
Yes, yes, it should be like that, right? I mean, it's like essentially like, a generation of flippers. We're flipping through everything, right? We're
It's true.
swiping through everything. So even, and also nothing could be more boring than a handbag show. And it's like, tiny little bag that you're walking like on 100-foot runway. You're like, okay, got it, saw it. So it
I
needs to
mean,
just
it's
be
so
infused with
beautiful.
energy. Thank you.
The
Yeah, it just
the
needs to be just like
detail.
this image and energy, and just kind of gives
Wow.
you this idea of you know a flash of a moment.
Oh my gosh, so much detail. It's amazing. And so I know you've mentioned inspiration is everywhere. Where do you
Yeah.
find a lot of inspiration?
There is no I don't have a formula. It really is,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no formula to it, right? It like, it always begins with a deadline for me. It's like, okay, I got to finish this collection. Like, what am I going to do? Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's business. I can't be like, oh, I'm just going to paint and finish whenever I finish. It's like, I got to get samples done. So
Yeah.
I think of it like more as a business, kind of like, okay, so what worked before? What have people bought into? What should I repeat and, change colors? And, it starts with a little bit of analysis of as to like what your best sellers are and what people look to you for. And then how do I give you the same thing but different? Because ultimately that's what it is, right? I'm not giving you anything you don't need anything that I make. So I'm hoping that you can look at something and be like, oh, I want that. I don't know why, but I want that, because that's ultimately what it is, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it looks like you've been involved in some fundraisers too, like that, like this one.
Yeah.
Museo Bambata. Is this where Sarah Jessica Parker? It
Yeah, she
looks like
signed the clutch, which was really
that's
sweet of her. I mean,
awesome.
she wore it on the show, and the organizer asked if she could sign that clutch so that we could raise some
Really?
money for the event, and it was really good. I mean, they raised a lot of money, not just for the clutch, but for the event itself. Um,
Right.
the clutch went for a lot of money, and it was good. I mean, what is it to
That's
her? On the show,
awesome.
right? Yeah, it was really
So
nice of
that
her.
clutch was featured on the show, like one of the episodes? Do you think?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
Oh my goodness. That's
and
so
that's
cool.
yeah. No,
I'm
yeah,
gonna look for that
it was.
episode.
Yeah.
Do you remember which episode?
Don't be green with envy. You can buy it too. Just go to Rafi.com and
Oh,
you can buy it.
oh my goodness, serious? You have it available?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I thought it was like those one-offs that.
No, no, I don't do one-offs.
Really?
No. Can you imagine how expensive it would be to do one-off? I mean, no. I'm in business to be in
Yeah.
business. One-off is like that's a wedding gown.
That's like,
Yeah, I don't do that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
I have
my gosh.
samples, but that's not, I don't do one-offs. Yeah.
Yeah, especially, I mean, obviously in New York, you need to be running a business to make money and like thrive. Um, and there's a balance because there's the creative side, you want to do great quality work, but then you need to make money. Like it's like
Yes.
how
I
else
mean,
are you
yeah.
gonna operate, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Um,
you've got to have that cash flow. So yeah, and yeah, I don't know that you can do that out of one bag.
how
So
big is your team?
it's me, myself, and I.
Oh my gosh, you do everything.
Yeah, yeah. Other than shipping, because I have a warehouse to do that, but everything else is me.
Yeah.
Like marketing is me, PR is me, design is me, production is me, accounting to an extent is me. Not fully, but thank God for like my accountant. Yeah, and thank God for my warehouse because they're incredible, doing all the
Yeah.
shipping and all the complicated stuff. Yeah, yeah, I do everything myself.
I
I'm a
know
one.
there's like a few minutes left and I'm already like I want to dig and fight. Like, have you participated in some kind of group programs that help you grow your business? I know there's a lot of different cohort programs out there.
I have
And
not. I have not, to be honest with
I could see you being really fun to learn from. Like, have you thought about doing your own fashion cohort program?
you. No, I have not. No, I'm too busy trying to keep afloat. I got priorities. My
That's what I'm
priorities is staying
saying.
in business.
I could see you growing that aspect of like people wanting to learn from you and paying you to do that. Like
Yeah,
because you're an expert, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
that's just a little idea.
yeah.
And you are so awesome for being on my show. Like, is there anything you'd love to say to someone out there who's considering starting their own fashion line? Do you work with influencers as well to help you promote your products?
I do. I work with influencers who like my product and want to wear my product. I don't pay anybody to wear any of it. I don't have that kind of budget to be like, oh, here's $500 for you to post one picture. No, if you like my things, you're gonna wear it. You can post a picture, great. If not, no problem. I'm moving on. Like, yeah, it's I mean, it's a tiny budget that I have to focus on doing my samples and getting my photography done and making sure that the warehouse is paid, DHL is paid, all of those
Yeah.
things, right? So it's yeah, I work through the kindness of these influencers who actually really like my product, and customers out there who actually, it is amazing because when I do meet women, I think the most important takeaway that I have is that I'm able to design something that makes them happy, that gives them a lot of pleasure, and it makes them smile. And it's in this crazy world, if I can do something that actually makes you feel a little giddy and a little excited and having that sort of proud moment, and especially now more than ever, because of our emergence and the uh, just there's so much Filipino pride now. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Like, I've met so many women, like even last night at this event, where they're like, they want to wear my things because it's, one, designed by a Filipino. They love it. Secondly, fortunately,
Of
uh,
course.
and like, except it gives them a lot of pride to wear it because it's like, it's something chic, and it's like, oh my god, this is designed by Filipino, and I'm supporting Filipino design and supporting this Filipino talent, and that's huge. I think now
Yeah.
more than ever there is this sort of, again, this sort of nationalistic, pride in
Mm-hmm.
our heritage, and also to realize that Filipino design, as a Filipino designer, like, we can compete. I mean, like, you can put my things in Europe and it'll work. It doesn't, it's not parochial. It's not just limited to the Philippines or whatever. I mean,
Right.
that there are so many people, that I've been able to do this business all this time, ship all over the world. It's, we're global citizens.
And that's you had to start big. You had to market to other markets,
You
not
have
just
to.
within
I
the
mean,
Philippines.
no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, that aspect of it is really a plus.
Yeah.
To have that audience as a captive audience, it's fantastic. And having that exposure again of them to be like, oh my god, I didn't realize. One, I didn't realize you were Filipino, or one, a second, oh, I didn't even realize I could order on your website, like Rafi.com. They're like, oh, like last night, people were like, how do we buy your bags? I'm like, Rafi.com. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
of course. Like some people don't think about it, right? It's
Yeah.
just those things like, oh my god, of course. So again, the having that exposure and being able to, like, meet people and share my work with them, and them having to appreciate what it is beyond, you know I mean, they can choose so many other bags, but if they choose mine, that's already the beginning. That's the start of a beautiful relationship.
And even for I think your price point is actually very reasonable. I
No,
mean,
yeah, exactly. Like, listen,
you
you can
know,
you can have one of my bags, buy a dress, and still have dinner. And you can still pay the rent,
and
right?
dessert.
Yeah, and dessert, and
See, I mean, because
a
I
glass of
have bought,
champagne.
I bought some from Michael Kors, and I have friends that buy LV all the time. But you're like, it's beautiful.
Yes, and
It's
listen,
just,
like you can buy those brands for like your day bags and for like work bags, if you want something special, you want something you don't see yourself coming and going, you want something that's beautifully handcrafted, and you want something also that people are going to be like, where'd you get that?
Yes.
Where is that from?
Right.
Like, you kind of want that, right? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you also want to be like, if you don't know what this is, then you don't know what's going on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and also like there's the story behind it. I love that it's a Filipino brand. I mean, you don't primarily say that, but I think, I mean, obviously it's designed by a Filipino.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
there's a possibility we can work on, there's an event catered towards a luxury market within the North Florida area.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to get one of your bags featured.
Yes.
You might know, do you know Miss O?
I do not know.
Okay. She sponsors with her beauty products. Olivia Keto, she does a lot of the Miss Universe pageants.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the audience.
But the customers are.
Absolutely.
It's like cross marketing.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Totally, yeah.
So anyways, I'll reach out to you, and I just appreciate you, and I shared your handles.
Yes,
we're going to link
thank
out
you.
to all your accounts. I know you got to run busy New York schedule.
Thank you so much, Julia.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you should have your own podcast. Your personality is so much. It's perfect. It's perfect.
I got a collection to design.
I know. I'm like, do this.
All right.
We'll just have you on again next time.
All right.
You have a great one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm just going to conclude really quick for anyone who wants to be on my show for future episodes. We'll love to have you. Filipino Americans, wherever you are, would love to feature you. I'll see you guys next time.